Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with my Blade Show video. So it took me a few days to really collect my thoughts, collect the things that I brought back, and form it into something that I thought would be a decent video. So I wanted to just start by saying Blade Show 2018 was my very first Blade Show, and it was awesome. As a guy that went with no expectations but a lot of hopes, it actually turned out being every bit as fun as I wanted it to be, and I had a great time. Here is a quick overview of some of the things that I brought back. Just a bunch of spectacular knives. All of these are brand new for the channel, and all of them are going to get their own videos. But I want to explain Blade Show and sort of use each of these knives as sort of a marker or a milestone of the event, and sort of what I saw, what I learned, and maybe we can explore these knives and pen a little bit more in depth. So I wanted to just start by saying thanks to everyone that I met there. A lot of people that I never would have expected to meet just came up to me and said, "Hey, Dr. Frunkey, let's hang out," and they had awesome knives and they were really cool people. And to everyone that I met and got to hang out with and helped me figure out Blade Show, thank you. It was fun. And maybe I'll figure out a way to talk about each of these experiences. So I wanted to approach this in the way that I approach my reviews and break Blade Show down anatomically. And we're going to start with this. Actually, I'll bring it in. This is the map of the Blade Show from 2018. This is what they give you at the very beginning. They say Blade Show is going to look like this. It's going to be here. It's going to be at that time. So figure it out. So the first part of Blade Show is planning how you're going to get there. It's in Atlanta. It's at the Cobb Galleria. There are some hotels nearby. There is a hotel attached to the event center. And you want to figure out kind of what you want to experience. And so a long time ago, maybe as much as 4 to 5 months ago, I was looking at flights. I got a hotel room early because hotel rooms go the fastest. The flight I got at sort of the right timing. You want to order your flight a few weeks in advance, not really months in advance. And then you set up kind of how you're going to get to and from the place. And you want to think about how you're going to navigate through all of these tables. Now, here's the map of the place. This is very daunting to look at because it seems very small on paper, but when you walk into this place, it's a huge center with booths, tables, a second room, bordered tables and booths out here. It's just a massive thing. And so the one thing I should have done a little bit better was map out where exactly I wanted to go. I had an idea of the makers that I wanted to see, and I knew where their tables were, but I didn't ever draw a real map. I think that would have helped me a little bit more on day one. But we'll get into all that. That's something that you can do. I'm just trying to give people tips. So by the time I ordered the flight, I got the hotel, I got there on time. So what happens next? I get to the airport, and I actually happen to meet up with my good buddy Matt Patton. He runs Slice Fine Knives. He is a purveyor of some of the finest custom knives in the world, and he sells them as well. He was there, and we met up, and I was able to go to the Waverly with him, and he had an exhibitor pass, and I was able to get in immediately on Thursday into the show before it was even really going, and everyone was setting up. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I got into the show, and actually we bumped into Elijah Isham. Now, Elijah's going to play a role in the rest of this video because I ran into him a whole lot, and I actually ended up with 3 knives of his design on my table right here. This Pleroma prototype, the Omen, and his Blackfire collab with Rob Carter right there. So Elijah, I met him first, before anyone. I just ran into him on the hallway, and we just got to talking about some of his knives, and that was great. And then we got into the hall, and we ran into Stan Wilson, who had 3 or 4 non-flipper flippers with him, which I got to flip and handle. It was insane. Even the one that was all Damascus that Damasteel bought, you can look at their page. They ordered a full Damasteel non-flipper flipper from Stan Wilson, and it was insane. But I got to flip it a couple of times. That was before the show ever started. I got to walk around and kind of see what the layout was. Some of the makers were walking around. I tried not to bother anybody. I didn't say anything. I just kind of looked, and I was just seeing what was around. Some of the production companies had some of their knives up. A couple of the custom guys had some of their knives up. Some of the materials makers were there early, and they had some of their wares out, and they were selling to makers before the show started so they could get their hands on the best stuff. That's a thing that was happening. I was just observing what was going on. And then I kind of left there. I didn't want to stay. It seemed like everyone was setting up. I didn't want to get in the way. So I went back to the pit, which is the lobby of the Waverly Hotel. The Waverly Hotel is set up right there at the Cobb Galleria. They're literally connected buildings, and you can walk to and from each one. Hung out in the pit, had some dinner, saw some people, hung out with Vlad, VDK. I just reviewed his Integral, the Impaler. I had the War Admiral. I've seen a bunch of his knives, and so I got to actually hang out with him, and then a few other people. It was just an awesome time, but I kind of turned in early on that night because Friday was the day of the show. The first day of the show, that you want to be able to get in early. We're going to get to all these knives. I'm sorry that I have them out here and I'm just talking. But I wanted to talk about getting in on Friday morning. There are sort of 3 approaches to doing this. You can just do the early bird approach where you show up at 5 a.m. I know my buddy Eugene Kwan did that. He showed up very early, and there weren't very many people ahead of him. He said maybe 70 people ahead of him in the line at 5 a.m., but there are people who showed up even on Thursday night and camped out. They're just these hardcore fans that really want to get these things first come, first serve. That was not my approach. The secondary approach, the show opens at 12 for early bird access, and then like 1 p.m. for other people. If you want to show up at like 1:30 or 2, you can still get into the show, and you will just, if you're not looking for first come, first serve, it's sort of a smoother transition. So, or you can have a friend who has an exhibitor pass, and I happen to get that and get in a little bit earlier, and so that was very nice for somebody to help me out with that. So I got to look around and see some things early. I recorded some videos, but I had a couple of knives in particular that I was having in mind, and the first knife that I picked up while I was there was this, the Peter Rosenti Small Satori. The Peter Rosenti Small Satori is something that I have wanted for a long time now. I actually had a Satori, the full-size one, but it was a little bit too big and angry looking, and I thought I wanted a smaller one. Even when I had it, I thought a smaller version would be nice, and he definitely made it the right size and the right appearance with this one. So I knew he was going to Blade Show, and he had posted he was going, and I said, hey man, your table is going to be the first one that I'm going to go to because I love my Nirvana. I'm going to buy a knife from you. And he said, well, why don't I just build you one? And so here is the Satori that is going to match my Nirvana. I got it with the same exact setup with the blasted handles, the Zerk pivot collars, and the big pivots, and the mirror wash blades. And I really, really love both of these knives. I'm very happy to get this one into my collection, and it was nice to actually meet Peter and see that he's a really cool guy. It's fun to talk to him, and he makes a really nice knife. So thanks to Peter for having this ready for me. So I picked that knife up, and it was a whole lot of fun. After that, I just walked around and I saw so many different knives just everywhere. There were incredible things. I went to the We Knives booth. They had some amazing new concept models and new knives coming out. Just walking around, custom makers everywhere. Just, oh my gosh, it was so overwhelming walking around on this first day. It was really just crazy because there's no way to plan. Even if you were to get your map and you say, I want to go here, 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 and here. There are 100 things in between each one of these that are going to distract you or show you something new, and it's incredible. But even if you have a plan, it's just going to go all to hell because there's so much to see and do while you're there. Next, I think I went over to the Koenig Knives booth. I came home with this knife. This belongs to my good buddy Nico at Today's Grail, Tomorrow's Beater. He wanted an Arius and managed to score this through me. So it's a really cool knife. I got to handle the new Goblin that was over there. I don't have one with me, but I'm going to be having one coming in sometime in the next few weeks, hopefully. That should be special for me, and I'm really looking forward to that. But the new Goblin was absolutely awesome. It was all the technology and experience and great action and good fit and finish of the Arius in a smaller, kind of tighter package, and it was just really nicely done. I thought it was a great knife, and a lot of people ended up with him. I think he had about 20 or 40 of them. I think maybe he had 20 or 30 of them, I'm not sure. But he sold some the first day and some the second day, and it was very well done. And of course, he had some very special Arius models. He had one that was the copper, it was the bronze dust carbon fiber, similar to my Shirogorov over here, which actually plays a role later on. So here's the copper dust. It was the bronze dust carbon fiber, marbled like that. And a Damasteel blade. He had that for auction. It sold at a good price. Amazing, amazing knives. Really nice to meet Bill in person. I didn't get to hang out with him as much as I really wanted to, but he's a really nice guy. And Krista was there. I got to meet her and just talk about the knives a little bit. And so thanks to both of them for being awesome, taking some time to hang out with me. Next year we'll have some fun, guys. It was cool to meet you. I walked around a bit more, ran into some good friends, and ran into my good buddy Tyler over at Tovarish Works, and we got together with a good buddy of mine named Josh, who goes by Ol Sluggy, and managed to track down J.D. Van Deventer, where I got maybe the most beautiful knife that I picked up at the show, and that is this full-size gold model. This is the J.D. Van Deventer Gold. This knife is a full custom from the South African maker. It's based on the JVO design, and it features some really awesome things. An M390 blade, dual row IKBS pivot bearings. It's got Mokume on the pivot collars and a full length Mokume backspacer. See if I can capture that. Look at that. On the full length backspacer there, bronze lightning strike carbon fiber, just a beautiful knife, really excellently made. I didn't really know what to expect, but I'd been watching Tyler's video, Tavarish's videos, and he really liked the knives, and so I had spec'd this out with JD online, and he executed it perfectly. I'm in love with this knife. This is a very special piece, and I am so grateful to have it. He did this hammered finish on the bronze-colored pivot, just very cool looking. Really nice to meet JD. And just really got me started looking at South African knives, and that resulted in a project the next day. But then I made my way over to the second room. So back to the map here. The second room is something new this year. They had an entirely second room full of tables with custom makers and mid-tech and other guys, and more booths back here, and Cold Steel was there. Just a huge setup, so it's very difficult to go to everything, but my good buddy Fanatic Edge was over here in the second room, and so I saw some things like Coltrotech knives. I saw Cold Steel over there. It was just an interesting room with some different things in there, and I made my way over to his booth, and I picked up the Omen. And then I ran into Elijah Isham again. The Omen is actually a design by Elijah, and it's being sold by Andrew over at Fanatic Edge, and it's a really awesome design. This was actually a pre-order from a couple of months ago, and he anodized it in this Frunkey green, and I think it just looks awesome. And I got to hang out with Elijah as I was getting it, and he had one as well that was also finished in green, so I thought it was cool that the maker had one that looked a lot very similar to my own. So I thought, oh, that was really cool. Got to hang out with him again. We just chilled most of the day. We ended up going to dinner later that night where I got to talk to him more about some of his knives. And then on Friday night we ended up going to the pit afterwards, and that was a whole lot of fun that night. It was kind of more low-key for me that night. I hung out with some friends and just kind of took it easy, sat at the tables and just talked about some knives and things. Hung out with my buddy Adam Purvis. He sent me this Primordial back to hang out with. This one was made by We Knives, but designed by Adam. Also assisted by Elijah a little bit with the CAD and everything. Very neat little design right here. He sent this back with me. I'll get a review going on that. Hanging out in the pit is just overwhelming. There are people everywhere, makers everywhere. A lot of drinks going around. It's a really fun time. Everyone has their knives out from the first day. And it was an awesome time. So I crashed probably around midnight that night, got up for the next day. For day 2, there are a couple of different approaches to getting in. That day starts at 9 a.m., You can either show up super early again at 5 a.m., you can also show up a little bit later, like at 10:30, and miss the crowds because it's also going to go to 6 p.m. Or you could have a friend with an exhibitor pass and get in like that. I did get in like that the second day, so it was very helpful to just get in smoothly. And so I got to see a bunch of things. I actually didn't buy any knives on Saturday during the show, but I managed to win a lottery that I entered. I went past the Grimsmo table, and I ended up getting this Grimsmo Saga pen, serial number 10, right there. This pen I was not expecting to get. I went by their table and just to see what was going on, and I saw that they were selling this. I know they've been talking a whole lot about it on their Instagram and their YouTube page, and to be honest, this is where Grimsmo, I think, would really excel. Is in precision machining of sort of small parts for these kind of items. And so I'm very intrigued by this pen. It was not very cheap, but the mechanism is very crisp and it works very well. It's a very good looking pen. And he, even John took some time and broke it down for me. He took it apart and showed me all the different pieces and talked to me kind of how super complex this clip was for him to make. And now I'm intrigued and I need to go watch all of his videos again and see more about it before I make my video. So very special pen right here. Very thankful to pick this up, but I got to handle a whole lot of other knives. My good buddy Ian over at CMF Metalworks, he was selling some incredible pieces. He had a collaborative piece that you saw on my channel with Robert Carter, and so it was awesome to see Ian there and meet him in person. This is his new model. He's calling it the Daedalus. It's an awesome, awesome knife. He's come a really long way in a short amount of time, and this knife is really nicely done. This is from my good buddy Josh. He goes by Echo Does Knives. This is a spectacular build. Really, really happy with the way that this looks. Really cool knife. I'll get a video separately on that one. So it was cool to meet Ian. I also met Robert Carter. And, I have the BBM. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me. The BBM is actually with Tyler at Tavarish Works. But you guys know that I'm a fan of Rob Carter's designs. I've had a couple of his knives. I still have the Ontario Carter Trinity over here right now. I'm not sure what to do with that knife. But I got to meet him. I got to see their collab knife. Later on in the day, I managed to buy and pick up this Robert Carter Custom Tech. This was actually not a Blade Show knife. I got this from my buddy Andrew at Fanatic Edge, who owned this knife. Now, this is something I've been after for a long time. I think this is sort of a perfect complement to go with the BBM. This sort of smaller Rob Carter design. It has black Rob Maskus pivot collars, a black Rob Maskus disc, thumb disc, pivot collars, and then a Robtanium, I should say, a black Robtanium. That's what he calls it. And then a Robtanium clip right here. Just a very, very special knife to me and a very nice spec. It's something that I have been looking for a long time, and I finally found one that I liked and got it for a reasonable price right here. So that's something that's also cool. Even if you don't get a knife at the show itself, you might find one kind of in the pit. Another exciting thing that happened on Saturday was that Philippe Georget was having the auction of this knife. Now, Philippe is a French knife maker. I've really just seen his work on a few videos on YouTube, and I was very intrigued by his work, and I thought it was very nice. And so I actually entered his lottos both days. And I didn't win either day, but I was there when my good buddy Mike won. He goes by Bloomenblade on Instagram. He won this awesome FIF 23 model, FIF 23, and it's an awesome front flipper from the French knife maker. It's big and it's absolutely bold and beautiful, and it's so smooth and well done. I am in love with this knife. I'm trying to convince him to sell it to me. He probably won't, but it's a wonderful thing, and I can't wait to bring you a dedicated video after I learn a bit more about the maker and this very special knife. So, later on that day in the pit, hanging out with more people. The pit was a bit more lively on Saturday night. I think it was sort of the last night of the show, and everyone was kind of going all out and having a good time. A lot of people brought a lot of knives. I got to see a whole bunch of Peter Rosenti's. I met Henry, who had a pile of really shiny new beautiful snafus. He got a snafu in Mokutai with San Mai. He got a snafu in a planar finish. Some other people had bought some knives. It was incredible. I think we had 6 Peter Rosenti's lined up in a row, fresh from the show. It was just a wonderful thing. And then I met Austin at Epic Snuggle Bunny over there. We hung out for a while. It was really cool to meet you, Austin. I met a whole lot of people that night, HMC Knives, just a whole lot of people that I hung out with. Sid at Rumble S, just people that were just a whole lot of fun. I can't emphasize enough that going to the pit is an awesome experience, and hanging out with these people until the wee hours of the morning was just absolutely incredible. And I couldn't have had a better time, I think. I really enjoyed it. So Sunday is the third day. I probably crashed at like 3 a.m. on Saturday night. I stayed out late and people were going until that time. So Sunday was a little bit later of a start for me. The show ended at 12 and I probably got there at about 10. A lot of times, a lot of the custom makers had already kind of closed up their smaller tables, but they were walking around, so there was still people to meet and see. What Sunday was for me was a materials day, and I think a lot of the makers who were still there were actually shopping for materials. So one of the more interesting things that I picked up there was actually not a knife or a pen at all. It was this. This is a block of Chad Nichols' Zircume, or whatever you want to call it. It's Cuser. It says right here, Cuser. I'm going to cover up the price because this thing was ridiculously expensive. But this is copper and zirconium that's mixed together to form this pattern. And so this is not a knife, but it could be a knife. This could make me 2 scales for a very long knife. It could make me some bolsters and a backspacer and then some more bolsters. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do with it, but I invested in a future project by having this insane material. And so I'm going to see what I can do with this. I think I have some ideas, but if you're interested in making something with me, you can reach out. We'll figure something out. So, did I go through every single one of these knives? I may have. So I've got the Koenig Arius, the Philippe Georget 5th. I've got the Grimsmo Saga pen, the CMF Daedalus. When I was hanging out, maybe not this one. I don't think I did go through this one. So in the pit, I'm hanging out with Rob Carter and Elijah Isham. And I should say Isham. I learned his name is Isham, Elijah Isham. And I got this knife in my hands. Elijah owns this knife, which is their collaborative knife, the Blackfire. This thing is incredible. So I have that Mokume, and then I have this Mokume knife in my hand. I was looking at this last year at Blade Show. It's one of the most incredible pieces, just stylistically. It's like a full custom Wee Knives eschaton, but it's similar, but it's just so much cooler with the custom touches, the Mokume, that insane detent, this beautiful Damascus blade. And Elijah was kind enough to send this knife home with me. And so, after Saturday night and Sunday, the show kind of wraps up on Sunday kind of with a whimper. Like it just kind of ends and everyone just kind of goes away. It just ends very abruptly, and there's not a big like hooray moment. It just ends. I ended up actually going to lunch with Levin and Jake over at the Knife Nuts podcast. And Elijah was there as well. And so he was playing with this knife, and he let me take this home for a review. I'm going to try to get this one done early because this is a really exciting concept sort of prototype from Wee Knives and Elijah's mind. And it's a very special knife with some very cool features. So very happy to come home with this haul. I wanted to give my sort of thoughts on each day of the show before it all went away. I hope it was entertaining for you guys. If I can sort of give you some final thoughts, I thought that the Blade Show was a really awesome experience. 2018 was a great year. I met everybody I wanted to meet, from Jim Skelton to Savi to people who follow me on Instagram and YouTube that talk to me a lot that I didn't know their faces, other YouTube reviewers. It's difficult for me to sum it all up. If I met you, I'm really happy that I met you and we talked. If I didn't mention you in this video, I'm really sorry. But we had a good time. I tried to document it all on my Instagram, so go and check that out. Definitely go. If you're thinking about it, go. It's a wonderful experience. You don't have to buy a knife, even just to see what's going on, to see the new stuff that's coming out. If you love knives, it's an amazing time. I didn't mention I went to the Spyderco booth, and I saw all of those knives too. Just a great time. I can't really fit it all into one video. I could talk for 3 days and still not give you all the details of what's going on. I'll try to filter more out in the videos as they come out, talk some more about how each of these knives came to be and sort of the stories around them. But I had a great time at Blade Show. Let me know down below what you're interested in seeing. If you have any questions about the show itself or any of these knives, I'll be happy to try to answer them down below. I'm definitely going to go again, so look out, guys. It's going to happen. Definitely going to happen again. So thank you for watching this video. Click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here. And as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunkey saying take care.